Hi, I'm Michael Wargo, team pilot with Precision Aerobatics and FMS. And this is going to be part 2 of my 4-part series. Well, actually 2 parts, two sections each. This is part 3 and 4. These are the essential skills that I think everybody needs to know as an aerobatic pilot to improve their flying skills and everything in between. We discussed last time a lot about the use of the rudder and how it applies to so much in aerobatics, and really trying to get used to the actual cause and effect of what the rudder is doing when you're on knife edge and when you're level and everywhere in between. Today there is a critical part of 3D flying which kind of controls your ability to do just about anything. So what we're going to work on right now is we're going to work on the relationship between the throttle and the elevator. This is really, really important. So let's take a look. All right, this sounds really simple, and it is. The problem is executing it gets a little tricky. If you're flying and you have some speed, the more elevator you add, the more it pitches up. So you can fly pretty fast and go straight into a wall without even playing with the throttle at all. So the airspeed has a lot to do with the effectiveness of the rudder or elevator. So if you're going fast or slow or somewhere in the middle, the amount of elevator you're using is going to determine how high the nose pitches up. Now, with hovering and everything else, the throttle is determining whether you stay up here like this. We've discussed it in plenty of videos that the throttle management is super, super important. So this throttle management is a lot easier to see like this, because if a little too much throttle, it goes up, not enough, it falls down. But what makes an experienced or good 3D pilot is the one who understands how to manage it from here to here. I'll show you while we're flying that when I'm adding elevator and throttle, managing them both in exactly the right proportions. Too much elevator, it stands early or it will climb. Too much throttle, it will climb. So basically, this much elevator and a lot of throttle will do one thing. Same amount of elevator with very little throttle will do something different. So as we're inverted harrier, doing harrier, and everything associated with 3D, and that includes rolling harriers, it's all that really nice balance between how much of the surface and the throttle. So my advice to everyone is either in some of the things I'm going to show you today or on the simulator, start playing with the two and watch how they interact, because standing it up isn't a function of the elevator. It's really important you understand that it is not a function of pulling the elevator. The same thing as if you come down in an elevator. As you start to slow down, I'm going to show you with the aircraft, as you start to slow down, you have to also release the elevator a little bit as you're adding throttle. And that is, in my opinion, that's the critical place to learn it. And we're going to see that right now. So we're going to try and stay close, and we're going to try and make sure that Tom zooms in as much as possible on the elevator so you can kind of see. But here it is. When we're falling down in an elevator, right now I have absolutely full elevator. And now I'm going to start adding throttle. And I'm not releasing the elevator yet. As soon as I'm arresting this sink and I have enough throttle, I have to release the elevator a little bit, otherwise it's going to stand up. So if I want a harrier, now as you can see, I'm pretty much at half elevator. But the plane is nice and controlled. I've hit the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone. I'm right in the middle there. Plane is at an exact altitude. Now, as I'm trying to stand it up, as I'm coming back, I'm going to stand it up. As soon as I get it in front of us so you can see. Now I'm at full elevator again and blipping the throttle to make sure I can get it up in a hover and hold it there. I was going with the wind that time. It was kind of stupid. Let's try it this way. Anyway, so right now I'm going to find my little Goldilocks zone again. You can see I've got just enough elevator to keep that nose up, but not enough to stand it up. But now I'm going to grab a little more throttle, see, and flex that elevator, a little more throttle, and there we go. Now we're hanging completely on the prop. Once again, once you're in that elevator configuration, let's try it on this side. All right, now you can see it falling, and I'm using the elevator to hold the plane level or up a little bit of throttle. Now as I slow it down, as I'm trying to slow down its sink, it's falling pretty fast. I have to make sure I release the elevator now. And as you can see, the elevator is a lot different than it was. It's about half. And now I'm back in that Goldilocks zone. And our goal for this practice session is to find exactly that. Find that Goldilocks zone. Find where the plane doesn't rise. You see where the elevator is right now? At this pace, I can just keep flying like this, and I can stay this high above the ground. I always flex the throttle a little bit because for me it's a little bit easier to maintain that altitude, but you got to get that left thumb moving. Got to get it moving. And like I said, I mean, you could see how much control you have here. I'm going to set it down. The key to this exercise and why we're going over this is because it's something you need to practice. Waste an entire battery on nothing but trying to find that Goldilocks zone where whatever height you're comfortable at. I don't care if you're comfortable at 100 feet. Stay at only 100 feet and just try and drive it around. The other part of this, been talking to some people this morning about it, is control. You know, you can't harrier if the plane is flying you. You can only harrier if you're flying and guiding the aircraft. Controlling where it is, you know, it's a lot like driving a boat. It's not an exact science. You can't drive it like you drive a car. So it's gonna, you know, slip out a little bit, slip in a little bit. But for the most part, if we want to, you know, we can take the plane in this harrier configuration, we can circle it around, and I'm going to guide it there. I'm going to go down the other side. We're going to spin it around some more. This is a little bit of rudder, and we're going to fly it down the other way again. And just practice guiding this thing around and making sure that you can control, the aircraft, like I obviously can. Again, not an exact science. But again, if you watch the elevator, with the wind, you can see a big difference here. I've got a wind coming down the runway, so right now, it's going to stay up nice and I don't need a lot of throttle. As soon as I spin it around the other way, I need a little bit more throttle because I do not have I do not have that wind pushing the wing up. That's why you see a little wing rock here, because it's kind of a crosswind. But anyway, this is the exercise, this is what you need to do, and this is the last part of this particular section. All right, there's another part of this throttle management in relation to a surface, and that is the rudder. So, we've done these exercises before, but we really want you to practice them. If you really want to do nice knife edges, same thing. Full rudder, very little power, and the plane will just sink. I'm going to just take my throttle now, and I'm going to put more throttle in until it stops. Pretty simple. I know it's scary, and I know it's a little hard if you've not done it before. But the bottom line is this particular exercise, if you want to do, you know, that really cool, nice high alpha knife edge, that high alpha knife edge, you've got to be really, really, really careful. Really careful with your throttle, and that's all it is. This is all throttle right now because I have the elevator or the rudder pegged. My suggestion is I would practice trying this on with a few different altitudes. You know, practice it up high. See where I am? I'm coming down, nose high. Now I'm going to go back up again, which means it's not going to fall anymore. I can let it come down. I can, you know, release some of the rudder too, because it helps, and then add it back in again. And see if you can practice letting it go up, letting it go down, letting it go up, letting it go down. Same deal on this side.
Thank you.
I'm lifting. Bring it down. Make it go up. Let it come down. I just released the throttle. Let it go up. I think this particular exercise is really, really valuable. And it opens up a whole world of things that you can do with your airplane. And again, even things such as point rolls, keeping them nice and straight, has 100% to do with you managing that throttle and managing the surface to make sure you don't add too much rudder. Because if I do a point roll, but I add too much rudder, you see what happens. It's not just ugly, but I change altitude. And the object is not to ever change altitude. Okay, you know, the final part of this is, I believe, all tied to learning how to control the aircraft, control where it is, how high it is, guiding it on the spots that you want to guide it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to become comfortable with being a little lower and a little slower and being able to kind of guide the aircraft around. This is really important. It's an exercise and a critical skill. You watch the Harrier part, you see me just driving it around and kind of controlling where I want it to be. You see me bring it up and catch it. This is all a matter of controlling where the aircraft is. We've had a bunch of discussions about letting the airplane fly you instead of you flying the airplane. Well, this is a critical skill. That is, you fly the airplane, don't let it fly you. And we're going to learn how to get comfortable low while we're doing it. Okay, right now this plane is fast, but it's flying. So I have it in a nice configuration to kind of sort of Harrier. This isn't a Harrier, but look how slow it's going. Of course, this is a PA plane. It'll go a lot slower than most, that's for sure. Fly it around slow. Hit your marks. Decide where you want it to be. Stay close to the ground. Almost like it's a landing. Just don't land. Little power, power it around. Again, this is not a Harrier. This is flying. I am flying this airplane. I'm adding a little rudder to turn. I'm doing rudder turns to keep the wings level. And we're going to go slow. Then slow it down even more. Slow it down even more. Little throttle. Keep it off the ground. Again, I am flying. I am not doing a Harrier. And this is an important distinction, because what I'm trying to do is get you used to being slow and getting used to being low.
Time remaining 4 minutes.
If you're trying to learn to hover, watch, take it slow, nice slow flight, slam it. Okay, you're going to go up a little bit, but it worked. Getting low is just a matter of being, like if you're up this high, there's very little difference between being here and driving slow and on the ground. If you're completely uncomfortable being low, fly slow up here, turn it around, make some kind of rudderish turns, and try not lose much altitude. This is the way you learn. Or maybe just keep making the same simple loop until you get fairly low. But ultimately, this is a matter of something that is going to begin to give you some throttle management skill. Whoops, I was going to say don't let it land.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
I managed to break both my wheel pants today. Very proud of that.
I use them for orientation.
As you can learn how to drive it. Now this is more of a Harrier. As you get slower and slower, you'll start to realize that the elevator, do you see how much elevator? Plane isn't going up at all, but I'm applying elevator. The only thing that's going to make it go up now is throttle. So, to recap this a little bit, my suggestion is fly slow, just like you're right on that approach to landing. This is going to help you in a bunch of different ways, but the biggest one is, you know, you're going to be very close to landing, and if something doesn't feel right, you can always just let the plane come down. But see how long you can hold it off, and I think that's a terrific idea. Start on one end of the runway and see how long you can keep the plane from touching down. Blipping the throttle, feel what that's doing, and just get comfortable down here. Ultimately, getting comfortable in that configuration is going to lead to a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. You know, this happens because I'm comfortable low. I'm not worried because I know I'm going to add enough throttle. Same thing with this. This is all just being comfortable low and some nice throttle management. Anyway, in my opinion, this is a critical skill for 3D, but I also believe it's a critical skill for things like just landing. Landing warbirds, landing jets. You know, it's just kind of understanding what it feels like to be this low and stay there. See, I'm landing, I'm flying, almost landing, and just holding it off with a little bit of throttle.
Remaining 1 minute.
Okay, for those of you that are already kind of advanced pilots and are trying to hover low,
30 seconds.
most of the 3D pilots I know, most of them, can hover but not low. The low part is terrifying, it seems. Of course, I always suggest practicing with little foamies and stuff like that, that if they hit, they don't matter. But getting comfortable low, as I said, then really understanding, I've got a lot of wind here, sorry, is understanding where your throttle is. In order to
Expired.
the only way to do it, hey, avoid doing this, just pulling back on the elevator, because that plane you see went up like 15 feet and I completely. The is like I was just saying, this